Madam.
How are you today?
We are fine. How are you?
I'm well by grace. Selena, I can see that the holidays helped you very much. I really like the
Not
energy
yet.
in your voice. What about the others? Did you enjoy your holidays?
Madam, it wasn't bad.
It wasn't bad, eh?
But just that
Happy.
money was not there, so we
Oh,
slept the whole day. Yeah.
Abraham, you need to develop a very good business plan and start making a lot of money. Because it looks like you need a lot of money to be happy. Abraham.
Yes, madam, it's very necessary for me.
Yes, so you have to strive very hard, have a very big vision for your life so that you will make millions of monies, and you can share it with everybody and enjoy yourself as well. Okay. So
okay,
I wish you a lot of riches. I wish all of you a lot of riches. So that you can enjoy yourselves, but know that the money alone will not make you happy. Okay. All right. Okay. So over the past, I think 2 weeks, we've been discussing Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts, and we've had very enriching discussions about the given circumstances, the background story. We've looked at character, we've looked at the premise, and I think, I would like to believe that you have had a very good experience with this play, and you would say that you understand this play. Wouldn't you say so? Because we've spent a lot of time on the play, and by this time, you should know what the story is about. You should know the premise. You should know the characters and their motivations. And so would you say that you really get this story? Oh, talk to me. Hello, are you here?
Madam, we get the story.
So talk to me. When I ask a question and you don't speak like that, I feel like I'm alone in this meeting. And it's not fair.
Sorry, madam.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So I'm happy to hear that. And would you say the same about the first two plays we analyzed, The Game and Sweet and 20? You've done it again.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So I'm really happy that this method of spending more time on one play is effective, because like I told you previously, I could do one play a week and it wasn't effective, because even though you have a lot of time, I can see that not many of you are even reading the texts before. Doreen is saying that she's being told the host is not allowing students to unmute themselves when they try to unmute. Let me just check. But how are the others able to unmute themselves and talk to me? Is anybody else facing that difficulty?
No, madam.
Then it is not from my setting, because I haven't disabled people from unmuting themselves. And so Doreen, I don't know what's going on, but if you have anything to say, you can also just type it in the chat, just like you have done with the information you've put here. Okay. So just respond in the chat so I know that you can hear me. Doreen, you can put whatever you want to say in the chat here. Can you hear me? Okay, great. That's good. So I'm really excited that you are soaking in the story and you are having more time to engage with the story. And because of that, you can confidently stand anywhere and say that, oh, I have read Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts. And you'll be able to talk about it meaningfully. You can say that I have read Louise Bryant's The Game, and you can confidently talk about this play, and you can say the same with Floyd Dell's Sweet and 20. All right, so this is our final lecture on Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts, and we'll be looking at plot, conflicts, and restating the premise. I think in our last discussion, I looked at conflict already. You remember, I can even see it up here where I discussed the various conflicts between the characters. So we will skip that. You can always go back to it in the video recording. And so I'll just focus on plot, dialogue, and then we'll restate the premise. And then you can, ask questions and make contributions. And, just anything else you want to say about the play, we'll say it. And then we draw the curtains on this particular play. And so in our previous discussions, we have looked at a synopsis of the play. I have taken you through the whole story by combining the background story and the given circumstances to give you a picture of the entire story. And we know that this story is about a woman who has had a terrible experience with her husband in her marriage and is struggling to keep a certain understanding, that is a positive image of the husband's memory. But that is not the truth. The truth is that he led a very immoral life that devastated her. And at some point, she had to take over his estate and manage the whole business, keeping him from going out to, do further damage to the reputation of the family and also her son. And so at this point, at the point the play begins, we know that she has built an orphanage with the last remaining part of his money that he has left behind, because she wanted to just bury his memory with the orphanage. And so the orphanage will stand up as a monument to his nobility. Even though it is not true, she feels like by doing something like that, it will prevent people from seeing the truth or even entertaining any rumor about the immoral life he lived. But the orphanage is burned to the ground through Pastor Mandes and Engstrand's activities, even though we know it was Engstrand who actually caused the fire. But through that, the orphanage is burned to the ground, and her son, Oswald, who had come for the ceremony, that is the unveiling of the orphanage, comes home sick. And he finally reveals to her that his illness is one that he would not recover from, one that would constantly, make him lose his mind by softening his brain and all that, because he was suffering from syphilis. And so she was devastated by the news, but she was still entertaining hope that she could take care of him and still get to live with him, because she sent him away when he was 7, you see. And so this was her opportunity to actually spend some time with her son. But now he's sick. Even though she wants to take care of him, he's not one to take care of at this point, because the kind of illness he has, he just wants to end it, because very soon he will become like a vegetable who is incapable of knowing who is coming in or going out. And so it's just like being dead. And so he admonishes her to kill him when he actually goes into that state. where he cannot think for himself. But before that, he had also told her about being interested in her maid, Regina, who turns out to be his sister, actually, from an affair his father had with the maid of the house. And so the possibility of marrying her was lost. But he was depending on her to be the one to kill him or administer the poison when he loses his mind. But since she turns out to be his sister, she had to move on with her life. She was also looking out for opportunities for herself. So she follows her so-called father to go and start the Sailors Inn business. And so, right when day breaks and the sun begins to rise, Oswald loses his mind and his mother frantically searches for the poison to end her son's life. Even though she had a lot of conflict, internal conflicts at that moment, she had to finally do it. And so this is a tragic story, right? Because, you know, of what has happened to Oswald. And we know that the premise is the sins of the fathers are visited on the children, because it was through no fault of his that he inherited that illness as a result of his father's wayward behavior. And so it's a very interesting story that talks about cause and effect. And so it is not surprising that the plot itself is a causal plot, cause and effect, where the incidents are arranged in a sequential order such that when you pick any scene out, it breaks the flow and you are unable to understand what will happen next. Okay, so if you take away that important revelation scene, you will not be able to understand why Regina and Oswald cannot marry. Okay, so everything is tightly woven based on a cause and effect kind of progression, so that the first incident gives birth to the next incident, like that to the very end. And so it is a linear plot because the events are arranged in a chronological order, so that they are hanging on a cause and effect kind of arrangement. And so let's look at the parts of the linear plot. Exposition. We know that the exposition gives us information about characters and their relationships to each other, the environment, the weather. Most of the information that we will need to be able to follow the story is given to us as exposition. And so we see the first act actually is a very good example of exposition. And we see how the exposition is revealed through conflict. It's revealed through conflict because Regina and Engstrand have a conversation right in the first scene where he has an agenda. First, he has a problem with the fact that Oswald is still sleeping in the middle of the day. And then she asks him, what do you want with me? Maya's hand is up. Maya, do you have a question?
No, madam, please, it was a mistake.
Hey, this thing has been happening, no? It's like the gadgets these days have a mind of their own. They keep lifting people's hands up. Okay. So the conversation between Engstrand and Regina actually exposes a lot. First, it tells us that Oswald has traveled from Paris and it was a long train ride and he's resting. And then through that, we get to know that Engstrand is a dubious man. He is not to be trusted because Regina's attitude towards him tells us a lot. And then she also tells us that he's the one who frustrated her mother to her death. And so it is also revealed that she's an orphan. I mean, her mother is dead, right? And then we know that she's a maid in the house, but then through what Ingstrand says, she's being trained and, you know, educated in a way that it's more like she's a proper society lady, but she's still a maid, right? And then the conversation between Regina and Mendes also exposes the ambitions of Regina to us, that she wants a better life for herself, because Engstrand had gone to tell Mendes to talk to her, to follow him to start his business. And then Regina, when he confronts Regina, she tells him that he should find a proper home for her because she is also lonely. She wants to be able to start her own family, but then she wants a proper home. And then Mrs. Mendes, Mrs. Alvin and Pastor Mendes, also, when they meet, they reveal a lot about their situation. We get a lot of information about their relationship in the past. And then she also gives us background information about Captain Alvin and his wayward ways. And then at the end of Act 1, we get to know that Regina is actually the illegitimate son and daughter of Captain Alvin. And so the exposition helps us to understand the relationships between the characters to be able to move forward with the story. And it gives us certain vital information to be able to understand even the season. Because when Engstrand comes, he was sopping wet, and she's telling him to be careful, to be careful where he stood, and that he was dripping through her kitchen and all that. So through the exposition, we have enough information about the environment, about characters and their relationship to each other, and all that, just to have enough information to get us going so we can understand the situation, we can understand where we are, we can understand who the characters are and what they mean to each other or their relationship to each other. Exposition is not given just in the opening scene. Exposition is given throughout the play, but then in terms of the structure of the plot, when we say exposition, it's more like introduction. It's more like when you're writing an essay and you write the introduction. The introduction is giving information about what this whole essay is about, right? What key debates you are joining and what you seek to do. And so exposition gives us that kind of information. Where are these people? Who are they? And where are we headed, right? So you are able to understand what comes next because of the exposition. Without the exposition, you wouldn't know who these characters are. You wouldn't even know why they are there or why they are saying what they are saying and all that. So through their discussions, the exposition is given about who they are, the season, their relationship to each other, and something to come. All of these are presented there to help us move forward with the story. And then there is the inciting incident. The inciting incident in the plot comes right after the exposition because it's more like signals a key incident that forces the plot to move forward. And that is the arrival of Mendes. Because Mendes comes there for a reason. He comes there to move us towards the unveiling of the orphanage. He comes there to do that. But then through that, he reveals, Mrs. Alvin, in her conversation with Mendes, reveals the reason behind the orphanage. And then she also talks about her husband and the kind of life he led. When Pastor Mendes thought that he actually changed his ways before he died, she was telling him that he did it to the very end. he didn't change his ways. This is what she had to do. She had to make tough choices. And then her state of mind is also revealed here. So Pastor Manders is the pivotal character because he is the one who pushes the plot forward. It was his arrival that led to the burning of the orphanage, for instance. His arrival led to the revelation of Captain Alvin's wayward ways, Regina's true identity. We also get to understand who Mrs. Alvin is through her conversation with Pastor Manders. And then also her desire to have Oswald inherit everything from her. And then her desire to have Oswald live with her always because of the past decision she's made to send him away. And so the arrival of Pastor Manders is actually the inciting incident because at that point, it forces the protagonist to take action. And we can see how by bringing the documents to the orphanage, it makes everything real. And then he also pushes Mrs. Alvin to make that decision not to insure the orphanage, which led to the consequence. After the place got burned down, he finally realizes, oh, we did not insure it. All is lost. And then Mrs. Alvin says what? It is all for the best. The rising action and complication. Now, the rising action is a series of complications where one person wants this, the other person is preventing the person from getting it. Like certain incidents that come up to complicate the whole agenda. Because we know that at the exposition, there is to be an unveiling of an orphanage. So that is what we are all looking forward to. And then we know that Regina is also looking forward to marrying Oswald and moving to Paris. That is why she's learning French and all that. And so, what complications come to disrupt all these plans? And these are the complications that came to disrupt all the plans. The revelation that Regina is Captain Alvin's daughter, Regina and Oswald actually being in the dining room complicates everything because right before that, Mrs. Alvin reveals to Pastor Manders that Regina is actually the daughter of the affair her husband had. And then there's, who is speaking? Mute yourself if you are not speaking to me because you are disrupting us. And then Manders trying to get Regina to go with Engstrand, the orphanage burning, because we know that the orphanage was supposed to be unveiled and it was supposed to have buried Captain Alvin's memory forever. But now things didn't go as planned. It got burned to the ground. Engstrand blackmailing Manders, using him to be able to get funding to start his sailors in business. And then Pastor Manders succumbing to blackmail when we know that he's not like that. He's not somebody who is willing to, compromise his conscience and all that, but he has done that. All of these complications come about to tell us that, okay, even though this was the aim at the beginning, life happens. You don't get always what you planned for, right? And so this is it. This is life. You have plans, but then life happens and then it thwarts all your plans and things end up another way than you expected it. And so the rising action and complication actually points to this fact of life happening to disrupt our goals, our plans, and all that. And you can see how at the beginning we have an idea that all of these people have come because of something. And then we reveal the various aims of these characters, but at the end of the day, things don't turn out the way they expected. But for Engstrand, things turned out the way he expected. he who at the beginning seemed unlikely to get what he wanted actually got it at the end of the day, even though it was through dubious means and blackmail and lies. He still got what he wanted. And so it just reveals to you the complications of life. And so you have to see the plots and the development of the actions as life and then its complications, leading to a crisis. Now, the crisis point here is when Oswald decides to marry Regina. Now, the point of crisis often comes very close to the climax. The crisis point is more like the point of no return, the point where the protagonist makes a crucial or critical decision that determines the outcome of the play as a whole. And so here, Oswald decides to marry Regina. But by that decision, he comes face to face with the truth that she is his sister. And there's no returning from this point. The truth is revealed. He can no longer entertain any desire for her anymore. And he actually had hopes beyond just, he wasn't really interested in her as a woman. He was interested in her rigid and robotic ways. Because she has been a servant, she's been a servant in their home since she was born. She's more like somebody who can do things cold-heartedly because she's been instructed to do it. And so he had that hope that she would be the savior. She would save him when the time comes. She would administer the poison. But by this revelation, it causes her to take a different action. It causes her to take a different path for her life, that she's going to follow that dubious Engstrand. If he has rights to her money or her father's money, then she also has as much rights to her father's money. And so she's going to go along with him and see how she can also benefit from that money. And so what Oswald feared all this while actually happens. Right after that, Regina has left them. He is with his mother. But before, he had already told his mother that she should do it. And he was trying to convince her to do it when all hope was lost with Regina, that she should do it. And so the climax is where he has a mental breakdown. He has a mental breakdown, and the stage direction reads this way. Okay, so this one is stage direction mingled with dialogue. He sits in the armchair with his back towards the landscape without moving. Suddenly he says, "Mother, give me the sun, the sun, the sun." He seems to shrink together to the chair. All his muscles relax. His face is expressionless. His eyes have a glassy stare. And then Mrs. Alvin says, "Oswald, Oswald, look at me. Don't you know me?" Now, that's the climax. That incident that we are all, that the whole plot and the actions was moving us towards. The first scene, he was upstairs sleeping, and he'd been sleeping throughout. Even when Pastor Manders comes, he was still up there until later when he comes out, and he seemed tired. And it looked like since he came, he'd been sleeping. And so we knew something was wrong until he himself reveals it to the mother. And then he says that that time is coming when he would become like a baby. He will not be himself. He will not be in control of his faculties. And so he wants her to do something for him when that time comes. She said, no way, you should stop speaking like that. It's nonsense. Maybe it is not what he thinks. But now it has happened. At the climax, it has happened. That thing which she feared the most had happened. And so the following action is when she searches for the morphia tablets. And she says, I cannot bear it. She whispers as though petrified, I cannot bear it. Never. Suddenly, where has he got them? So she cannot, so you see the conflict we were talking about last week, where she had an internal conflict. But even that internal conflict has some expression that you can see. Never. I cannot bear it. I cannot bear to see him this way. Where has he got them? She fumbles hastily in his breast, looking for the morphia tablets. And she says, here. Now, this here, she says, it is not just saying, I have found it. It is also confirming, or Zoom user, mute yourselves. It is also confirming that she has made that decision to give him the poison. Because at this point, the conflict and everything has been played out already. He's already dead. He's already dead. But all she has to do now is to relieve him of being in that state. She shrinks back a few steps and screams, no, no, no. And she says, yes, no, no. You see the conflict within her. I don't want to do this, but yes, I have to do this. I am doing this, but I don't want to do this. And it's more like signaling how she's also realizing at that point that she has lost him forever. And then the resolution is the final action. What does he say? What was the final thing that was said? The sun. The sun. He's saying the sun. The sun. And it ends. That is the final action. The resolution is the very last thing that happens. The following action is what follows after the climax, meaning that the conflict has already played out. The rest is just a restatement of, what she must do, or the theme mostly. But the resolution is the final action. So that is the plot. It moves in a linear format, and we know that there's no disruption in the flow of time. We don't leave the present and go to the past physically, like in the form of a flashback. The time flowed linearly, presently. If there's any recall of past events, it is just, stated in a narrative kind of way. And so it is a linear plot. And we know that the dialogue is conversational and it reflects the character's social standing. And when they speak, you know that all the lines come from their personality, the personality of the characters themselves. The way Mrs. Alvin speaks shows how she has grown, how far she has come as a woman, reading books about feminism, reading books about female empowerment, and how the patriarchal culture she lived in had sought to disempower her and imprison her behind the veil of duty to family and children. Now she's liberated. And you can see also in Oswald's speech, he's very intelligent, he's very educated, and he's able to engage Pastor Manders in a kind of discourse that fractures or pierces or pokes, pins at Pastor Manders' beliefs and, chauvinistic way of thinking, because he's thinking that a woman should not even entertain desires for herself, all of that. And so the characters speak in ways that are akin to who they are. And we can also see how Regina tries very hard to behave and speak like, a well-trained lady within that society. And so she looks down upon her so-called father, Engstrand. And in her conversation with him, she's very colloquial. But when she's speaking with her mistress, she speaks in a formal way, like she's addressing authority, And so it also depends on the situation they find themselves in. But when it comes to Engstrand, we also see certain variations. When he's speaking to Regina, he also speaks very colloquially and he calls her a hussy and all that. But when he's speaking to Pastor Manders, he employs all manner of scripture and ways of speaking and manipulation to try to get him to believe a certain version of who he is. And so the dialogue really reveals the personality of the characters and also their motivations in various scenes. But we can see that Manders, Mrs. Alvin, Oswald, they just speak based on their training and their standing in society. And we see that Regina and Engstrand have had to shift their registers, have had to shift their even use of words, their diction, depending on who they speak to, just to be able to get what they want or to show a certain version of who they are. So this is all I have for you on Henrik Ibsen's Ghosts. I think it is a very deep play that reveals the complexities of life and people in all, and also the consequences of our actions sometimes may not come to us, may move on to other people in our lineage. It's very interesting and frightening as well, because you then begin to ask yourself, what consequences are you living as a result of what someone else has done? Yeah, but let me hear your thoughts. Let me hear your thoughts, like general thoughts about the play. And if you have any questions you want to ask, you're free to do so.
Hi, madam.
Hi, Abraham.
I think it's a very nice play, and it's really tells us about the secrets and the things which happens in various families or homes, which parents try to protect or hide, and later comes back to torment them in the future, or becomes a headache that they try to fight in the future. So
Yeah.
with this, I think it's also making us aware of some of the things that we can face in life, whereby we have to also avoid all those things so that we wouldn't see ourselves in such a situation in life. That's
Okay.
what.
That's great, Abraham. I'm really happy you are seeing it this way, because plays are not just plays. They're based on keen observations of life. And so it's good for us to learn from them. So that's a good observation. Any other views? Any other views, comments, questions? also find what you said interesting because, I mean, it's happening all around us. Various families have skeletons in their cupboard. And so what you see is not always what the truth is. And with what we have seen in this play, you can also ask whether you can really hide the truth forever. Depending on the kind of truth it is, it may come out eventually. And when you hide the truth for so long and it finally comes out, it can come out with devastating consequences. But that is life, and that is how human beings are. And, I mean, we don't go about wearing the all our skeletons on our faces. No, they are inside for a reason. Our skeletons are within our bodies, hidden beneath our skin for a reason, right? And so when you meet people in society, when you interact with people, you know that that's just the tip of the iceberg because it goes deeper. But what we can learn from this is what Abraham has highlighted, the fact that there are consequences. There are consequences to actions. And it is not just social consequences. There are principle-based consequences. That is like when you decide that you are going to miss my class, right? To go for maybe a social event. The social consequences is that you won't get the learning. You won't be in class. You miss the class. You'll be marked absent. But then the principle-based consequences is that you won't get the learning. You will not understand. And so it's always comes down to what is right to do based on the fact that there are principles governing this life. You may think you are doing something and hiding it from people, but you will still have the consequences. I may not know and mark you present, but the consequences you can't escape from. You won't get the learning. Okay. And so that is how life is. There are always consequences. So there is an action and there is a reaction. Cause and effect. These things happen a lot, and these plays that we read help us to, reflect on our own lives. They help us to reflect on things that we do, on things that others do, and how we can understand our actions and the actions of others. So it provides a very good opportunity for learning. Don't take these plays lightly. Okay. Yes. More views, questions, comments, anything with regards to ghosts. Hey, the others, where are you? Do you just come and sit in class and, just listen and go without contributing anything? You are stingy, Papa. Don't be stingy.
Madam, it takes time to process the information, so we are still processing all the information we got.
Hey, it's not only based on this,
Processing
it's
time.
not only based on what I have said, it's based on your impression on the play in general. Because you remember, I've said that this is our last discussion on this play. So I'm asking for views about the play. I'm not just giving you new information about this play. You know this play, we've been studying it for the past 2 weeks. And so I don't think that response holds water. Because I have finished what I want to say to you. I want to be able to hear your views on the play, what is most interesting to you in the play. All of these things are things you could talk about. Selena, I haven't heard your voice today, apart from your enjoyment of your holidays.
Madam,
Yes.
I find this play very interesting, and one intriguing thing about it for me is the fact that Miss Alvin's attitude and everything that she actually did to prevent the unhappening had happened.
Mm.
And the sad part of it is seeing the young son suffering the pains. Suffering the consequences of yeah of his parents.
Mm.
So the story is great and sad at the same time because we
Okay.
lost our sweet Oswald.
Oh, that's sweet. I really like the way you have taken Oswald upon yourself. It means that you really immersed yourself in the story. Oswald, that
Yeah,
she wanted to finally spend time with. I mean, you can feel her pain, right?
yeah,
I like the fact that you focused on her. You can feel her pain. Having to do such painful thing as to separate from her child just to, protect him. And then finally enduring this and having to be the one to give him the poison. Come on. How much can a woman endure? Now, this is a very good question to explore. How much pain and suffering can a woman endure?
another sad one is having to see Regina not getting married to Oswald. It looked like she liked him that much to have the heartbreak of getting to know Oswald is actually his half brother. It's heartbreaking.
Mm. But you see, we can also examine her character in relation to her real motivations. I don't think hers is love. It's about opportunity. Because you can see how she quickly, if she really loved him, she would have felt something, even when she found out that he was sick. And now that she even knew that he was her brother, maybe she would have wanted to stay on to take care of him. But she was interested in opportunity. She's opportunistic, just like her mother. And that statement she made in the end wasn't just stated. It actually points us to the fact that she may be very much like her mother, looking for opportunities. And that's why she ran off with Engstrand. Because if you really love someone, when something comes up, the love doesn't just disappear, especially when you find the person in a vulnerable position, you would want to help. You would want to, stay on. But she just looked elsewhere within a split second. What's the next opportunity? And then she leaves, right? So, I mean, Selena, thank you for your views. Sila, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I think the most realistic part of this whole play for me was the relationship between Regina and Enstrand, because like even though that's not her biological father, to a certain point she felt that was her father, but then she was able to detect his manipulative and toxic behavior and decided to stay away from him when he offered her the sailing job.
Yeah.
And I think realistically, most people are living with toxic parents or manipulative parents, but then they are not able to figure it out because they think it's love or something. But then for her to recognize it and then decide to stay away from him, even if for a period of time, I think
that's
that
very
was
brave of her, right?
yes.
Very brave of her. And I mean, you can also link this to the fact that she knows him. She knows him very well. She grew up with him and she saw what he did to her mother. He's manipulative in the eyes of the public. He wants people. Look at what he told Pastor Mendes about saving the woman from shame. Meanwhile, he took money to marry her just so that in the eyes of society, she would be more like a respectable woman. But he took money from her and then decided to use it against her and torment her in the marriage to her death.
Yes.
So I mean that observation is very keen. It's very keen because Regina has wisened up. She has become a wise girl because she has seen his manipulative ways. But as a consequence of that, she has also learned to use circumstances to her advantage. While she was living with Mrs. Alvin, you saw what she told Pastor Mandes, that he should find other opportunities for her. She's also lonely. She wants to start her own family. She wants to live in a mansion, a big house. She has ambitions for herself. And so by living there, she puts her eyes on Oswald when, because of his philandering, he wanted to be with her. And so she when he expressed a bit of interest, she decided that is her ticket. So she started learning French. You see, and playwrights do not write certain things for no reason. They are all clues as to character. When Oswald said that he's going to marry Regina in front of Pastor Mandes, when Pastor Mandes wanted her to go with the Engstrand, and I'm going to marry her and go off to Paris with her. But the playwright writes that when he made a second suggestion, she was not happy. When he said that, or we may decide to live in this town, Regina was not happy about it. Because she has ambitions of going to live in a big city like Paris. So she's also taking a lot of cues from Engstrand's behavior. And that is why she knows him so well. That is why he cannot play her, you see. And so I like that observation about, Regina being practical. She's very practical. She's also opportunistic. She's looking for opportunities. If it was love, like Selena suggested, she would have stayed on to say, oh, for the sake of love, I would want to take care of this man whom I love so much, but, only finally realized that he's my brother. All the more reason to take care of him now that he's going to become a vegetable. Right. Exactly. Right. So, I mean, I'm really, you have all these beautiful views and you wanted me to be the only one to talk. Don't be stingy with your brilliant views. Okay? You should always talk about the place you read. You should talk about experience in a very insightful way. Look, what you have said is very insightful. This is your connection to the play. This is what really stood out for you because of this, because of that. Now, that is what shows that you are training your mind to be an analyst, to say something and have reasons for saying what you said. So don't just keep quiet, okay?
Okay, madam.
All right.
Madam,
yes.
Madam, it looks like the youth recently have the attitude of vagina. I don't know if I'm right, because most of we, the youth right now, we want the opportunities. We want to get something for ourselves rather than putting ourselves, limiting ourselves to only love, finding a man to love. Like, it's not there anymore. We really want to get the opportunity, like working, helping us find like greener pasture and all of that. So
love
doesn't really practical and
love doesn't pay bills,
of course.
Oh, I see. Love doesn't pay bills. Of course, love is sweetest when there's money. You don't have to, make that decision based on need. When you are when you are okay financially and your partner is okay financially, then you can really get to the heart of the reason why you are together. And if it is love, that's brilliant. But like Selena is saying, these days, everybody is looking for opportunities. Where can I be the most comfortable? I don't want to follow love and go and suffer, right? I want to be able to be comfortable. But I really wish that young ladies, right? I have a lot of young ladies here, that you would rather seek your own opportunities, right? Seek to give yourself opportunities so that it is through your hard work, through your careers, through your own businesses that you make your monies. And then you are able to determine who you can be with. And you are not going to be with somebody because of money, you see. That ensures happiness, really. Because mostly when you meet somebody who already has his money, people know why you are with them. They know why you are with them, and you become a trophy wife. You will just be in the house. Yes. Oh, there's this beautiful girl. I've married you. I've showered money on your family. I've married you. And so I'm free to do whatever it is I want to do with you. You are a trophy wife. The person goes out and does whatever he wants. Sometimes you are so handicapped that even money for the day has to be removed for you. What kind of life is that? You have to be able to hold your own. You have to be able to make your own money. So ladies, my advice to you is to make your own money. You are in school for a reason. So go out there, use your brains, use your hands. Some of you are very good with your hands. Whether it is hair braiding, whether it is, your education actually gives you another leverage to take that business to another level. Make your own money so that nobody can actually, just manipulate and use you for their own reasons. And so when we think about the actions of Regina has been trained to be very hardworking. She's a maid. And so if she decides that she's going to follow Engstrand and get that money which is rightfully hers, then she's also going to use it to make a life for herself. She's not following love. She's trying to make a life for herself. She has ambitions for her life. She wants to become the mistress of her own home rather than, just working for somebody. Like the way Mrs. Alvin wanted to keep her there like a maid forever. Even the orphanage, okay, she will be in charge of it. Take it. And what does Engstrand say? That you are going to take care of some brats. That was not her ambition. She wanted something better for her life. And each lady here should have ambitions for her life and pursue it with vigor, like the way Regina is pursuing it, looking for opportunities that would help her be able to achieve that. But only make sure that you are doing it honestly, in honest ways, so that the consequences, as you have found out, will not come back to bite you. Okay? So you can learn so much from this play. You shouldn't just look at it as, a work of art, a fictional work or anything. It's about life. You can't stray away from life and still be able to produce a drama that is so compelling. Okay, so I'm really happy about your views. It tells me how far you have come, really. I'm very proud to hear you speak this way about what you have read. So keep it up and let it show in everything else you do. Wherever in your other courses, you read an article, you read a material, you should be able to state your own views about what you think about it, what the kind of sense it made to you, and how maybe you connected with it differently based on your experiences and all that. I want you to speak boldly. And the gentleman, so far it's only Abraham who has said something. Where are the others? Emmanuel, Kwesi Into, Randolph. Where are you? Are you in this meeting? King George, you are all here. You are not saying anything. Are you just consumers? You should be able to say something about what the play means to you, what is so exciting about it to you. That is the point of all this, that you train yourselves to be able to have valid opinions and back those opinions up based on what you have read. And the only way you will keep quiet is that you have not read, which is very terrible. And it's going to come back to bite you. Well, I do hope that those who are listening are listening. I know I can say so much to all of you, but only a few people will be receptive. Only a few people will have the fertile ground based on which the seeds I'm giving will grow. And so I can't hope to reach all of you, but I do hope that each of you will say, I am a fertile ground that will sprout good seeds based on my learning. Each of you should be able to say that because you are capable. So don't cheat yourselves out of learning by not reading, by not contributing, by not doing anything. You just join a meeting, and sometimes some people join and they move on with their lives. And you're not doing it to me. You're not doing it to me. And so for those of you who continue to read, who continue to, King George, I'm
Yes,
listening.
madam.
I'm listening, and I'm
Madam.
happy that you have spoken, that I have heard your voice this morning. God bless you. Let's hear you.
Hey, madam, please, about the play. You see, most of the plays, they're not necessarily told the year in which it was made. I wanted to know, like, in details, how you managed to know the era in which it belongs to.
Oh, okay. That's great. That's a very good question. You know, when I spoke about given circumstances, time has 3 levels, right? So we have the time when the play was written, and then the time when it was set, meaning that was it set in the present, like today, 2022, or it was set somewhere in the 19th century, or the time, the dramatic time, that is how long does it take from the beginning of the play to the very end. But the era in which it was set, you can glean it from the conversations of the characters, and then also what the playwright writes in the description. Because through the actions, you catch glimpses of certain information that helps you to situate the time. For instance, when they talk about the captain being made a chamberlain by the king, and in that era, when he wrote it, another way to know when it was written or the era in which it was set is also when it was written. Okay, so sometimes the time it was written and the era it was set in are the same, unless it's the timepiece where a playwright like August Wilson will write in the 90s, but set it in the, say, 1916. He has written in 1996, but he has set it in 1916. That is very different, and he will state it categorically. You will know that the time, either the playwright will write time explicitly and says the present. But mostly, if a playwright is setting a play in a time that is not his own time, he will state it in the play. He will let you know that the time is 1916, you know, and then you will use that to determine the era in which he has set the play. But if it doesn't state at all, then you can just use the time of composition. as the era in which the play is set. Sometimes playwrights set it in the present. They tell you the time is the present, like Lauren Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. She said the time is present. It means that it is always present. And the reason why she will say it's always present is because the issues she has addressed are issues she envisions will always be recurring. They will be the same, like issues of racism in America. These issues are perennial. They've been there since the first slaves landed in the 16th century. In the 16th century. They've been there. And she knows that the consequences will be there forever. So when she writes the play in the 1950s, she said it is present. She talked about the issues of the 1950s, but then that play is relevant today because of racism in America. And so King George, the way to find out the era that the play was written in, mostly you get it in the dialogue, that is references to certain things. Like in 1916, there were streetcars were new. And so in Sweet and 20, you realize that they have a conversation about streetcars. And what's her name? Ellen says what? She's not interested in streetcars. She doesn't use them. You know, it was a new phenomenon in her setting. And so that thing she said alone tells you something about the time. But then also the playwright would mostly explicitly state the time in which it is set. So there are various clues as well as the playwright also stating it. And when it is not stated, you can look at the time of composition or publicly. Well, mostly the time of composition, because sometimes plays are composed like 3 decades before they are published. So you can't say the time of composition is the same as the time of publication. And so if you want to know the time it is set, if it is not explicitly stated in the play by the playwright, you will have to look at the time of composition, which always comes with the play. Does that make sense? King George?
Yes, please.
Yes, madam.
Okay.
Madam,
But, I mean, yes. Who is
what
speaking?
if?
Selena. Selena, is that
Yes,
you?
please.
Okay.
Yes, please. What if in a book you're not giving the time of composition or anything that can make you identify time of composition, but you have let's say a colloquial grammar like English, like Shakespeare's kind of writing?
That's not colloquial. That's verse or poetry. Shakespeare
okay?
English is not colloquial.
Yes, I'm trying to say either colloquial or Shakespeare's kind of writing. Is it possible you can use that writings to tell the time of composition?
You can, especially with very old plays. You can, but it doesn't always establish the time of composition. It is what they are actually saying that can give you ideas about the time the playwright lived in when he or she wrote it. Okay, they may make certain references to certain happenings. You remember in the game, I spoke about what Death said, that soldiers have been dying for the past 2 years, right? And which pointed to the fact that it was during the time of composition, which is 1916, is actually the same time or period where the play is set, right? Because if the war started in 1914 and the play was written in 1916, and he said that the soldiers have been fighting for 2 years now, it tells us that the time it was set was 1916. Okay, so that's the era of the play. And so mostly it is what they say that gives you indication. But sometimes too, you can glean that the era of writing from the way or the diction, right? If I pick medieval text, the writing will be very different because of the poetic language, okay? But when I pick a modern text, like one that was written from the late 19th century, I will know the difference right away, because Henrik Ibsen and his contemporaries actually sought to kick against the romantic kind of writing, where they wanted the dialogue between characters to be conversational. They wanted to be realistic, like the way I'm talking to you right now. I am not speaking in poetic or language or verse, no. Because they are telling you times have changed. So that definitely can actually give you an idea of when it was written. But beyond, from the 19th century coming down, it's very difficult to really tell, because there are so many writers who are writing within the same era. So you pick the text and you are reading it, and maybe they were all composed during the 20th century because the dialogue is colloquial and all that. You can say that. But to be very specific, sometimes it is not stated in the text, but you can look at secondary material. Others may have done analysis of it and may have found some primary material somewhere in the biography of the playwright that points to when he wrote that particular play. So that's, Selena, that's another way to find the time of composition, okay, if you don't have it. Sometimes some people find that information through the biography of the playwrights and so on. So you can use that. But generally, you can get a big picture of the era in which a play is written just by looking at the diction. Because from 1945 onwards, or should I say, maybe from 1939 through to 1945 and after, European plays, for instance, that label themselves absurdist plays, actually do not have dialogue that is coherent. Somebody can start saying something and move off and say something else, because they were trying to signal to the breakdown or the decline of proper communication between human beings. And so they use their diction and their style of writing to point to that fact. So you can look, when you look at an absurdist play, you'll be able to see that break in communication between people, because they have lost all manner of meaning in their lives, in their social lives, as a result of the war. You see, so the effects of the war on human communication actually found its way in the way playwrights were writing, in their style of writing. So that can point to the era, the post-war era of writing. But anybody can actually write in that manner. And so that is not proof enough of the time of composition. Okay. So when you look out for the clues, but it is the text itself that will give you clues. Because imagine you're writing, you are reading, and then you see what do you call it? That somebody has received a telegram. Not the new telegram, the digital software telegram, no, the social telegram. A telegram actually as a way of sending messages in the 20th century, right? Then you are able to say, oh, this points to the fact that it is not today. Okay, so those clues, or somebody is using a curling iron, that is something that we don't use these days. So sometimes the technology they use also helps you to know when to, situate the era in which the play was set. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it means that we can also use props and costume.
Yes, we can. And you remember I told you about the parasol that Helen was holding?
Yes.
It's actually, something that the ladies of the time used to do. And so she was wearing a frock, costume. You should check, you should just look it up and see how it looks. And then you'll be able to see that, that's not how these people dress these days. And so what time is it? It helps you to know the time. Costume, definitely, and props, and even places people go to and their names gives you an idea of the era they live in. So I think the most surest way of identifying the era is through the lives of the characters. Okay, it's through the lives of the characters, because if you are reading a play and you see, oh, I put a picture on Instagram, would you say that it is the 20th century? Instagram is a recent phenomenon. It's a 21st century phenomenon. So you wouldn't put it in 20th century or 19th century, would you? Would you?
No.
Exactly. So the lives of the characters, the things they interact with within their environment, will give you an idea of the era in which the play is set. So that is why you have to pay attention, like a detective, looking for clues about how the characters are living, when they are living. Okay.
Then occupations too called.
Yeah, occupations do, especially if you say, okay, a mailman arrived on his horse. A mailman has arrived on his horse. That's in the olden days, Europe, for instance, right?
Yes.
So some of these things give you an idea of where or what time you're living in. So you just have to look for those clues. Okay.
Thank you. Madam, please. So this one is like, aside script writing, is there any other special occupation a students who does this course can do in Ghana?
Oh yes, Selena, you can do. You see, for me, I'm always looking at how you can fit within existing organizations, but also how you yourself can establish yourself. And so if you're looking at how to fit within existing organizations, do you know that these days, almost every company has a website?
Yes, that's true.
And they are supposed to be able to write their blog posts, advertising and saying a lot about their products and, even certain launches and events and all that. And it's very difficult for them to properly manage their online presence. And it's online, it's all about, doing, what do you call it? Proper copy work. And by proper copy work, it is linked to advertisements. You should be able to become a copywriter for a company where you come up with the right phrases, you come up with the right way of capturing their product and what it means to people. Because you are a storyteller as well. If you are somebody who has learned how to analyze stories, it means that you know how to effectively weave messages. Okay. And so apart from being able to handle their social media and online presence, you can also be very effective at writing reports. Well, when you're writing reports, and everybody's job actually entails writing reports, especially if you're working within a corporate setting. And report writing is a very key skill that will cement your position within any space you find yourself. If you are in the marketing department, you should be able to write very convincing, advertisements for your company as well. And so these ones are just works that are non-arts related. But if you decide to become a writer, you can also become a writer. And it's not just plays. As you are learning about stories, you can begin to write short stories. You can write, fiction, you can write non-fiction. You can also work in the media. You can work as a journalist. Because what do journalists do? Don't they tell stories about real events? Selena, don't they tell stories about real events? And so how to write the stories very well is very important. And these days you read a lot of journalistic writings and you are not impressed. But if you learn how to write very well, you can easily become a journalist. And you can also start your own blog by blogging about things that interest you, because you have learned how to write and write well. And writing and communication in general is about storytelling. You're trying to get somebody to understand your point of view or to understand something about a particular phenomenon. And writing is actually something you come to by reading and analyzing texts. And so writing is a valuable skill these days. So apart from how you can use it in the journalistic space or even in the corporate space, you can also use it to start your own career as a writer. Okay. And so when you develop your skill as a writer, you can work within the artistic space, producing fictional works, producing even, working as an embedded creative in other jobs as well, because everybody needs marketing. You'll be able to do that if you learn how to tell stories very well, because marketing is about storytelling, it's about connection to people. Okay, so there is so much you can explore. There is so much you can explore. It is not just limited to how many people actually end up doing what they studied in school? I have one student who, has become a fish farmer, a very successful one at that. He was even interviewed on BBC recently. You can be anything, but it all begins with you taking what you are doing presently very seriously, so that you have the skills. And then now, wherever you find yourself, you can apply those skills to set yourself apart. Okay? And another thing I want you to understand is that these days, there are so many opportunities online. You can even advertise your skills as a writer on online platforms like Fiverr. And if you are somebody who is into graphic design, you can tell graphic stories and post them on your own sites. You can do so much. You just have to think expansively. We are giving you the skills, but be creative. What can you do with it? And there's so much you can do. So Selena, these skills, these writing and analytical skills you are getting here, they actually are a huge arsenal in your skill set. So take it very seriously. And when you find yourself and what you want to do, they will come in handy. Everything is about writing these days, really. Even before you go out there and speak on camera or speak to things, you have written something down. And you have to be able to communicate your ideas clearly. And these days, people do not know how to write. If you write and write very well and develop those skills well, you can work anywhere because people are looking for those who can actually put together very meaningful and well-written reports, be able to write about, the mission, vision, statements, and, marketing strategies and everything in their companies. Coming up with ideas and expressing those ideas in meaningful ways is a very great skill to have today. So there's so much you can do. You just have to think more expansively and be more creative. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Is there any more? I don't see any hand up.
Yeah, madam.
Yes, Abraham.
Madam, God willing, next week, Tuesday, is a holiday. So, doesn't mean today is our last class.
Today is actually our last class, but I was really hoping, yeah, I forgot about that holiday. I wanted us to have, a general, maybe we can do revision during revision week. Okay. We have to do revision. Just, bring all your questions, and we get to also chat about other things, what this whole course means for you. Some of these conversations that Selena has sparked is very important. What can you do with what you are learning? What can you do with it? You have to get into the habit of writing. Whatever happens each day, whatever it means to you, write it down and write it in a coherent way. You have no idea what those, sometimes you go on social media and you're just, typing away and responding to other people. You can write something meaningful, something creative, or your opinions in a very constructive way and put it out there. You don't know who might see it. And I'll also give you ideas about how you can create opportunities for yourselves. There are a lot of jobs out there. You just don't see them. And you can take advantage of them, but if they won't come knocking at your doorstep, you have to go for them. You have to do something. You have to create those opportunities for yourselves. But in order to do that, you have to have confidence in your ability to do at least one thing. Say, oh, I can write reports. I can write a good essay. I can write a very good blog post. If you have to sell something to the company for them to say, oh, you can come and intern here. And then you are interning there and you are gathering skills, you are building your portfolio and all that, even whilst you are in school. So by the time you finish, you're not starting from ground zero. You can walk anywhere and seek to learn. When you're on vacation, don't go and sleep. You can walk into any company and say, hey, this is who I am. These are my strengths. I would like to intern with you because I have interest in what you're doing in this particular company. You present yourself well. You show your best side. And when you go there, you work harder than everybody, and they would even want to have you come back always. They would want you to stay on. There are so many strategies you can use to establish yourself even before you leave school. So don't think yourselves students. You are university students and you are not babies. So don't think, oh, this time it is just for my schooling, so I'm just schooling. And then you finish and now there's nothing. Okay, so some of these conversations we need to have so that you have clear insights about what you can do with what you are learning, with your creativity. Sometimes some of you have other creative skills that are not necessarily theatrical. Some of you are graphic designers, some of you are animators, illustrators. I mean, some of you do other things. How can you make use of those skills? What you are learning here is to teach you to be smart, to be analytical, to be able to communicate and express yourselves very well wherever you go. These are skills that can take you anywhere. But when you add other skills to them, they even give you a greater leverage. So I think this, what Selena has asked is a very good question, which I would want to talk to all of you about so that you are able to know what to do or what to start doing today so that you can prepare yourself very well for a brighter and more fulfilling future. So that you don't wait till you leave school and then now people call me, it's like, I still don't have a job. What are you doing? You're waiting for someone to employ you. Then you didn't get anything from here. You have to do something. And so that's a conversation I promised to have with you, which I think will help you. Okay, so Abraham, we'll have to do revision week. I'll communicate with you on that one. But this indeed is the very last lecture we have had. Have you learned
Thank you,
anything?
madam.
Have you learned anything in the course?
A lot, madam.
Okay. Did you enjoy the course? I mean, I'm very particular about you enjoying your learning. Has it been an enjoyable journey for you and, enlightening journey?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. But if there's anything more you would want us to do next semester, or something we have done which you would want more of, then you can also send me comments so that we can add it to, we have one more semester together. So you can send your comments and suggestions for, making the course better for you. And then we can all make sure that you are getting what you need to get from the course. Okay.
Okay, madam.
All right. So Lord willing, I'll see you in 2 weeks for revision. Okay.
Hi, madam. Madam, any clue about the exam? Like small.
Oh, I have told you. I will give you the structure of how I want the essay to be. It's not going to be sit-down exams. This is a very practical course. You're supposed to apply what you're learning. So I don't want you to go and sit in the exam hall, me asking you what is plot, what is a conflict, what is dialogue, and what is that going to do to you? The internet knows that. It is about your own analysis of a play of your choice amongst the 3 plays we have done so far. Okay, so you can pick one. But next semester, it will be applications throughout. You will be analyzing plays constantly. Okay, so this time it's more like a bonus, but I want to see how you go about structuring the essay so that you have a clear introduction, you have a clear background information, you have a clear analysis whether of character or theme. Okay, so I'll give you that information during the revision week, just so you know how to go about it. But I think even before that, just to get you started, I would post the essay instructions on the Sakai page to guide you. But that is all I'll be sharing with you. I've given you everything. It is the place. They've all been analyzed. It is about you picking a focus to write your essay on. So that is all. It's not a written exam. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. And no plagiarism. If you go and copy it from anywhere, I'll catch you because it will pass through the Turnitin through Sakai. And if I see it, I've told you, you will get 0 and you will fail outrightly. I don't feel sorry for doing that at all because you are being lazy. And so I'll fail you outrightly and you have to keep coming to write this course over and over and over again. And I don't think any of us wants that. So better do it once and for all and move on, because
No,
the
please.
analysis has been done already. So there's no excuse here. All right. I'll see you next week. No, 2 weeks, Lord willing. Take good care of
Hi,
yourselves. Okay?
madam. Hi, madam.
Yes.
Please, does it mean the exam is offsite?
Yes, it's offsite. You are not
Course.
because I need you to properly reference. You can get references on the play from elsewhere, but then it will just support what you are doing. You are not presenting other people's ideas. You are just supporting what you are saying.
Yeah, I'll bring this.
Okay.
Okay, madam.
All right.
Thank you.
So aside when you're analyzing a play, aside writing the title in uppercase, I mean first letter uppercase, is it okay if you decide
If you decide what?
to underline?
Oh, I think the practice is to italicize it. Okay. So leave the underlining.
Okay.
Okay, don't use that. Okay.
Okay. And madam, please, how about I know you're supposed to write in past tense, but does it still hold in the university? Because
In past tense, you're not supposed to write in past tense.
sorry, in present tense.
But that one is just for the synopsis. The rest you are writing in third person, like you are writing an objective essay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
You're not supposed to
All right,
write in
thanks.
present tense throughout your essay. It is just the synopsis. Okay. And in reference to the
madam.
actions of the characters, because I mean, it didn't happen in the past, it is something happening, right? But in your essay itself, when you are talking about plot and character, I mean, you're just writing in the objective voice, as in writing an essay. Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I mean, in 2 weeks, I will give you more guidelines. Okay. All right.
Yes, madam.
Okay, take good care of yourselves. See you.
Oh, madam, you are the best in the year. We love you so much.
Bye.
Bye.